Beginning of my video. Boom!
Welcome back to Boring Reviews.
Boring land.
Oh, just
on.
kidding.
Blasphemer!
Hello,
Right. Boring Review Nation!
Kind of pointless.
We know all things. It was over in a snap.
We really want it. Alright, we'll be nice.
Only you can be a Patreon.
Oh my gosh!
Look out. That's crazy.
You don't need to follow the show to be hyped.
Let's go ahead and get right into section 375. We know for quite a few of you that are in the room, you've been waiting for this. And so we're ready to talk about section 375. This is a film that was directed by Ajay Bal and written by Manish Gupta. So we want to give them some love. A lot of time we focus on the actors and sometimes on the directors. We don't focus on the person that wrote the film. And me growing up, I always wondered, like, what in the world? Why does the writer not get the credit? Because these are the words that these people are saying. So Manish Gupta wrote this. It stars Akshaye Khanna, and he plays the main lawyer. Richa Chadha and Akshaye Khanna, I think I said that wrong. Mira Chopra. And so this is produced by Panorama and T-Series. So this film is not based, but it focuses on the piece of legislature, the part of the Constitution of India, Section 375, where basically a woman needs to give consent, and it's against the law to not get consent and do certain acts. But at the same time, in Section 375, I think it also protects those who may be accused, where it has to be founded on the law. I may have butchered that, but
Yeah, no. I understood it a little bit differently. I understood basically that the burden is on those that are accused to be to prove their innocence, where, especially here in America, you're innocent until proven guilty, which technically isn't really how it's supposed to be that way, but that's not how it works. But yeah, the burden falls on that person to prove they're innocent. And I tell you what, this movie, bro, is super, super gutsy. I can't we keep it PG on here. I would say nothing else. But you know what? This director, these writers are super gutsy, because right now the Me Too movement is front and center. Okay. Harvey Weinstein just got indicted, forget about indicted. He just got convicted, and he's going to jail for like 100 years. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's a death sentence because the dude's super old. I actually just saw that he was trying to petition to get out because of health reasons, coronavirus. But anyway, not to go too far off track, the point is that to come out with this movie right now in the middle of the Me Too movement, we're saying, wait a minute, and a lot of people have said this so far, wait a minute, the men still deserve a chance to defend themselves. And now basically get of something like this, it's a death sentence, basically, politically, and economically, it's going to cost you so much money to defend yourself. And what about those guys that are not guilty? Case in point, Amber Heard tried to bury Pitt, and come to find out that not Brad Pitt, I'm sorry, who was she married to? Johnny Damon. Johnny Depp. Johnny Damon, Yankee fan, right? Johnny Depp, right? But it come to find out that he was innocent. He didn't do anything. She was the aggressor. So there's this very small.
But there's a whole lot to that story, though. We
Right.
don't want to get too much into. I mean, I don't know the whole story, but I know that he has been shouting from the rooftops for years, and almost stalking her online in a way. I'm not really a big fan of how he's reacted to it, trying to get her kicked off sets, kicked off jobs or whatever. A whole bunch of nonsense, a whole bunch of bad blood. And you're jumping right into spoiler territory, so this is going to be spoilers, I guess.
Come on, guys, you know how I do it.
Because
you know how I
find out at the end of this film what he's talking about there. But let's back it up about 2 hours here. This movie. It starts off, obviously, or the main thing is about, we get this scene of this woman going into this director. He's a big time director in the movie, fictional director, goes into his house, his condo, whatever you want to call it, his high riser. And she works in the costume department for the film, and she's showing him some stuff, and he looks kind of ticked off. We find out later on why he is, but he looks kind of ticked off, dismissive. And then he's putting some moves on her. He's hitting on her, and she doesn't look too interested. and then he kind of is very forceful with her and this or that. And I'm watching the movie and I'm like, they're going to show us this right now. Typically in these types of movies, these types of shows, they don't show you the act until later on because there's all this hearsay, and then we find out what happens. And so in the back of my mind, I'm not going to say I was thinking too much about, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking that was interesting. There's got to be a reason for that, but I couldn't put the pieces together on why that was, at least not me right up front. But it's the whole movie is about her getting represented by this new lawyer, kind of new. She's out on her own. She was working for the opposite counsel that she goes against in this film. And she wants to represent this woman. She wants to make sure that justice is heard. She wants to make sure that women's rights are protected. Section 375 is protected. And so she decides to represent her. And the thing that I love, I'm going to start off the bat right here with something I love about this movie. The thing I love is Akshaye Khanna's character. Let me get his character name. Tarun. I love his point of view, his perspective. I'm not a lawyer, never going to be a lawyer, but his perspective is it's not about was justice made. It's not about getting personal. It's not about getting emotional in the case. It's about presenting the law. It's about falling in love with the law and understanding this is what the law is. I have a job as a counsel to give my client the best defense possible, and I'm not going to worry about whether the person's innocent or not. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the law. And it's almost like a game to him, but he takes it very seriously to where I'm going to play the game this way, following the rules. You're going to play the game your way. And if you lose the game, it's not about justice. It's about the law. And you lost when it came to the law. And I've seen so many courtroom dramas, so many TV shows. I don't think I've ever seen a lawyer character with that type of perspective. And fast forwarding to the end, we find out that these lawyers that are going against each other in this case, they worked together once. There was a little bit of bad blood, but they're still friends. And they get together and they have an evening together at the very end of the movie. And I thought that was really cool. He goes into it, and he goes into it all business. Let's do the law. I'm not going to worry about the justice nonsense. And that's how we're going to do things. I really, really liked that from the writer of the film and the way that Akshaye portrayed it.
Well, here's the thing. And
Awesome.
I think you hit the nail on the head. In the beginning of the movie, he's giving a speech. He's giving a speech to students, and he's explaining, listen, there's a big difference between justice and law. They're two very different things. And, laws are written by men, okay, and women, but they're written by people. So those laws can be manipulated. And of course, there's politics goes into play, but sometimes getting justice isn't necessarily legal, and sometimes from a legal standpoint, justice may not be served. It may be lawful, but justice may not be served. There's some laws that are absolutely antiquated that are still on the books to this very day. I have never seen this actor before in a movie. All these actors, I'm new to all of them, but they did a fabulous job.
Yeah, the acting is profound. The acting is very, very good. I will say, as far as acting goes, I had a little bit of an issue, just a little bit, with the main counsel, the female lawyer, played by Richa Chadha. I thought there was times where she was overacting a little bit. And maybe it was just because Akshaye was just so on point in this film. I mean, I mentioned in our trailer reaction, I said, I really liked how he delivered that line. He is so into it that she's not able to keep up. And there's certain times where she's just really overacting her reactions. That was my only gripe with the acting. Other than that, the rest of it did great. The actress that played Anjali, Mira Chopra, she did fantastic in kind of the dual roles that she plays. She did great in both of those. Foreign land, it. There's Varun right there. Sorry to cut you off. There's Varun. Varun, I just mentioned about the awesome logos that you created for us. We're going to put it on when we post this the second time after it's live. We're going to show that. Thanks so much for supporting Boring Reviews.
Pawan's like Gaiton Day, bro. That's right. But again, I thought that this was gutsy simply because of the storytelling. Fast forward, he goes to court, and it's funny because right away in the beginning you saw he got convicted and he goes to jail for this, and you're like, what just happened? This is like not even halfway through the movie, and then that's when the other lawyer comes in to defend him. The first time he went through trial, he gets convicted. So this is actually a retrial that he's going through, that our main character
good point.
basically is now going to a higher court. It's like a Supreme Court or something to that effect. That's he's arguing his case in front of. I found it very interesting too, the dynamic of not having a jury there, because now you have these two magistrates, right? There's one male, one female, and they're presiding over this. And you could tell that they're conflicted at times, but there's politics going into their decision as well. And that would be my fear, not being in front of just a judge or one judge, or even like a Supreme Court where you don't have, an actual jury, and you're letting these people with their personal biases, their personal motivations, influence their decisions. And you cannot tell me that, people, you may want to be as unbiased as possible, but if they pull at heartstrings, of course, you're going to be biased. And I even thought that the male actually, the male magistrate a couple times overstepped his boundaries, because just on the technicality, he should have gotten off immediately. Like, look, evidence that's attained in an illegal fashion that does not have a chain of command should be inadmissible in court. So he got convicted on this evidence, so this should be thrown out, period, the end. And he said, well, this is true, and there's been other cases that this is not my court, and I don't deliver cookie cutter how do you say cookie cutter decisions. Just because somebody else made the decision doesn't mean I'm going to make a decision. Well, that's what precedent is. Okay, you go through other cases, and if they've already set a precedent, this is what you're supposed to do. It's a poison of poisonous tree, they call it. Once you get one piece of evidence that's illegal, everything else is thrown out in court. They didn't do that. Just on that merit alone, he should have gotten off, and that didn't happen. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So I was like, man, that's a very slippery slope, basically, when you've got one or two people deciding your decision. When it's 12 people, you just got to get one. But when it's two people, and those people have political motivations, I don't know.
But at least in this film, we saw that there was two judges. In Pink, there was just the one judge, and from what we've heard, it's a very common thing in India. There's no jury in India. The problem with the jury system, and there's no perfect system, the problem with the jury system is it's hard to not factor in the emotional. You're talking about these 12 professionally lay people who don't know about the law. They're deciding the fate. And you see too many times in these courtroom shows and whatnot about the lawyers who all we got to do is just convince the jury. It doesn't matter even if it's according to the law. It doesn't matter if my person's guilty. It's about convincing them. So that system is flawed. I like the system because that's what I'm used to, but that system is flawed. But I liked how the two judges were different. They were similar in some ways, but they were different. The male magistrate, like you said, he definitely was no bones around. He was not messing around whatsoever. But I liked how this unfolds. So you're right. He was found guilty very early on. He had Akshaye's character to run. He says this was a joke of a defense, and so I'm going to help you out. He's going against public persecution. They hate this director. He's already guilty in the eyes of the public, and we've seen that so many times in society. And typically they are guilty. But for those people that aren't, your heart goes out to them. And he is willing to take that on. And then you see the opposition from his wife. I mean, this guy's not suffering financially, but he feels the need to take on this job, this client, and his wife doesn't want to do it. His wife's throwing the daughter, and she's gonna get made fun of at school. Can't do this kind of stuff. And he is just 100% all about that law. He's in love with the law, as he mentions in his speech early in the movie. But he takes on this role with everyone hating him, and with this shadow being cast over his family. Not this role, but this job, I should say. And even I'm watching the movie, I'm already judging the director. I'm already saying, oh, you shame, shame, shame. I saw what happened. You're so guilty. But he looked at the facts. He looked at what he saw in front of him, and he knew he had an uphill battle because this guy was already convicted once. It's got to be super impossible to reverse that conviction no matter how much evidence you have. And we see ultimately that this film doesn't follow the traditional tropes of a courtroom drama. It's not afraid to go into a different direction and surprise us. And that's one of the strongest things about this film is it's not typical. It's not, oh, I've seen this a million times. Is it completely original? No, of course not. But it's very, very fresh. And I really, really liked that. And it gave me a sense of wanting to finish it even more than usual because I had no idea what was going to happen.
Right. No, definitely. I agree with you. And, I think that as they went on in the story, it's kind of showing you the duality of these situations where ultimately, okay, he put him in this position. We're talking about the director. So it wasn't like they were trying to make you feel sorry for him or that they were trying to say, okay, he's completely innocent. He should walk free. It's actually really hard to find an antagonist in this film. Is the director the antagonist? Is the lawyer, that the prosecutor who put him in jail, and that her case is kind of flimsy, is that person the antagonist? Like, what is the antagonist here? But I think they did a good job of showing you that it's not that simple. A lot of times it's very complicated, a lot of shade of gray. For instance, when we were going back to the evidence being tainted, you find out that one of the police officers was trying to blackmail him, which is why it took like a 7-hour window, a 6-hour window, whatever it was, to go get arrested from the time the girl filed the police report to the time he was picked up. And he was able to prove through phone calls and phone records that he was trying to blackmail him. And in court, he had to admit, like, oh yeah, I didn't do it originally. So, and this was the guy that collected all the evidence. This character reminded me of Mark Furman, okay? O.J. Simpson trial, where, dude, here come the claims, bro. Get ready for a phone call, all right? But no, seriously, think about it. At the end of the O.J. Simpson
trial, Furman wasn't the lead investigator in that case.
He wasn't, but he was the one that collected the most important evidence.
Obviously, but
he was the one that collected the most important evidence. And at the end of the day, I think Johnny Cochran's genius in that case was you weren't even asking at the end of the trial, was OJ guilty or not? It was Mark Furman a racist cop that planted evidence? That's what everybody would know. You forgot OJ was on trial. He put Mark Furman on trial, and that's what this lawyer did. He put even the other lawyer, I forget her name, says, hey, the cops aren't on trial here. He is. Why are you attacking him? But he was smart to do that. And again, the trial should have been over right then and there, but the judge tended to overstep his boundaries, in my opinion, and say, okay, well, I don't think he would be even smart enough to taint the evidence, or he doesn't have that kind of expertise, so we're still going to go with it. Whatever. Moving forward, he pokes all kinds of holes in the story, all kinds of holes. You're saying to yourself at this point, even if he's not innocent, their prosecution was frivolous, so he should walk free. But seeing what he did, do you want this guy to walk free? You know what I mean? And that's really one of the questions in this trial. Like, should he be guilty because of his character? Because he's not a nice person, because he's a vile individual. He kind of brought this upon himself. Should he go to jail for that? Or ultimately, because he didn't do what he was accused of, should he walk free? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's tough because in this movie, there's a lot to talk about, but for me, personally, I don't really want to talk too much about the specific facts. I want to talk about how different this movie was. One of my favorite scenes, and we see a little bit in the trailer, is when during a recess, Akshaye's character goes out and he gets stopped by the media, gets interviewed, and then someone sprays some ink on his face, and he turns back around and he walks to the bathroom to get cleaned up. But just that shot of him walking and that intense look on his face was quite unique for me, because it didn't look like someone that was angry. It didn't look like someone that was going to cry. It looked like someone that was just on a mission. This is my job, and I don't care about all these people that want to destroy me or hurt my family. I have got to do this important job because this guy was cheated by the law. This guy may be a scumbag. This guy may have done this a million times. He may do it again to some other poor, unfortunate person, but he was screwed over by the law, and I'm just not having it. And he just goes to the bathroom. He just washes his face. He goes right back to it. He doesn't try to shove that into the judge's face, like, you guys got to protect me. He just moves forward with it. And it's scenes like that I absolutely love in this movie. he's having that little like bite to eat, like almost like in a food court or something like that, or in the cafeteria with what's her name? Haral's character. And I mean, he's just so focused the entire time. A lot of actors are focused, like a Joaquin Phoenix or a Leonardo DiCaprio or a Nawaz, but you don't see it too often. And this guy was super focused the entire, or Amir Khan, he's a big important example of that. These guys, these actors and actresses are so focused. It's such an impressive thing to watch. And even in a scene like that, where you can be tempted to do different emotions as you're walking down that hallway, I don't know, I might just be making too much out of it. But for me, I just was really captivated by that and by his performance. And it just elevated the entire movie, elevated the intensity. And it made me just for a little bit like his client a little bit more. But most of this movie, I could not stand his client.
Right. And I mean, I think that was the intention for you not to stand him. But still, are you going to send somebody to jail for something he didn't do simply because you don't like him, because he's a vile person, because he technically put it upon himself? Bro, I would you take this role first of all, in real life, if you were a lawyer, would you defend that guy? You saw the backlash he got from his own wife, from the community, from the media. Okay, in the court of public opinion, you're a scumbag, and they even ask him, you just keep defending these criminals and these vile people. And would you do that in real life? And then even as an actor, would you take on this role? Because technically a lot, again, this is right in the middle of the #MeToo movement, right? So, you know, there could be a lot of people upset about it. And like, that's why I said, it's a really brave movie. It's a gutsy movie, but I don't know if I do it, man, because all it takes, especially as a celebrity, is one wrong move. You say one wrong thing, you do one wrong thing, including getting the wrong movie, and it's over for you, okay? Gal Gadot recently just had some issues because she was talking about, I don't know, going out during the shutdown or the quarantine, and now people are calling for her not to be Wonder Woman anymore. Like, you do one wrong thing, man. So would you do it?
Yes. As far as the role, yes, because they're a different breed. And these actors, they're able to escape into a role. They're able to, most of them, professionally understand that this is my job and the words have been written down for me in the script. Obviously, there's going to be some ad-libbing, but the words are written down for me in the script. I'm here to do a job. I'm here to portray a character. And when I see that character on the page, I'm thinking to myself, this is the main character. Of course, I want that role. I want to be able to show off the things. This character has a wider range of different things to be able to do in this film. So if it was me, 100%. We live in a world today where people like us behind a webcam or whatever, we feel justified to get someone like Gal Gadot fired. I don't want her to get fired. I think it's ridiculous, but we see something and we go typing away. And if we have way more influence than we have right now, we can get someone fired because of a decision they made. Maybe it's not a decision that you would make, but that's a decision. Yeah. That's a reason to lose your job and lose a role. And since we're talking about this, I'm going to go off the rails just a little bit because I watched a video on this from John Campea. For those of you that are watching the channel for a while, you know I love John Campea. This guy has been in the biz for such a long time. He has inside information. He knows what he's talking about. And he answered a question about how there's news out there that Jason Momoa is going to be taken away from the Aquaman role. And there's no reason behind it. There's no, drama behind it, but that's just reports on all these different sites. And he was just so eloquent and so amazing when he explained, you've got to trace the news to the source. And he traced it all the way back to the source of this one website that says we got things covered or something like all things covered, something like that, where they are wrong 97% of the time. So they just throw out random fake facts out there and people eat it up. And when I was watching that video, I was thinking, if DC fires Jason Momoa, I'm done. That's the dumbest film franchise ever run because he's fantastic. Luckily, it was a rumor. But my point is, we feel justified to get people fired because of a decision they make. If it's not illegal, then what are we? I mean, it's crazy. So yes, I would take the role. I would not fire Gal Gadot.
Right. Same thing with Eva Angelina. She just got into trouble for posting that she had taken her daughter to some kind of gym that was, and during the quarantine, and it was like, if it's open, it's not illegal. I'm getting my child out of the house, but people were saying she wasn't taking the quarantine seriously, and now they're calling for her head. She should, Marvel should fire her from being the Wasp on Ant-Man and the Wasp. But
It's ridiculous.
okay, so now if you were a real life lawyer, would you defend that guy? Think about the guys that take on these tough cases.
No,
I don't think I could either.
I would chicken out for sure, because for me, of course, I don't want to be in any kind of harm or any kind of whatever. But for me, the biggest reason would be my family and what they'd have to go through. I'm just that stubborn to where people keep telling, if someone tells me not to do something and it's not against the law, I'm probably going to do it if I want to do it, because no one's going to tell me not to. I've never been subject to peer pressure, and thank goodness it doesn't affect me too much. But with what my family would go through, of course, I want to take up the case. But he does take up the case. And it's I got my ball too. And he
it's like a stress ball.
He uses every trick in the book. Some of them you can say unethical, but
whoa, let's stop right there. There's no law. Liz, all's fair in love and war. All's fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there are certain laws, there are certain procedures you have to go through. And we see this in all these kind of courtroom dramas where, oh, Your Honor, I just heard about this today. I didn't have a time to let the co-counsel know about it. That's a bunch of hogwash. We all know it. And I'm not saying that the moves he did I did not like. I absolutely loved it, especially the one about the footage, the CCTV.
Where he lied to her?
Yes.
Oh.
And he
do it all the time,
was right there. I mean, that's a huge bluff. I absolutely loved it. But my point is, he talks about loving the law, right? He is all about loving the law and going through the law, and then he's willing to do these tricks. But the reason why I had no problem with it is because his client already had the cards stacked against him. His client was already a victim of not having the law work on his side. So I feel like he thought, like, I have to go for broke. I have to swing for the fences. I have to go for those sixes because I have no other chance otherwise. So I had no problem with it, but it was unethical. Come on.
Well, I think that even he was telling his adversary, who used to be in his firm as well, and then because she didn't like what was going on over there. But when they had that conversation, he's like, look, I have a job to do. I want to win. Okay. As a defense attorney, you have a job to do. You want to win as a prosecutor. The judge has a job to do. They want to win because that's going to get them a higher office, a higher judgeship. So everybody is trying to use the law in order to win, and we'll do whatever it takes to win. So he kind of prepared her for it, but she did some underhanded things too, where she was like, at first she was like, no, this never happened. And then, well, even if it did happen, then, she just changing her story. And I thought that she was getting beat as, just looking at it from an outside observer. Like, okay, first you said that it was never consensual. Then you're saying, well, there's a chance it could be consensual at first, but just because it was consensual all the other times doesn't mean this one time it was consensual. And he just kept poking holes in her story about how the flowers under the bed weren't fresh when they were found. I mean, this is a fabulous movie, guys. You got to really watch it. Great courtroom drama. But fast forwarding to the end, so we don't give everything away, but they end it in an unconventional way. And I was like, interesting. But is that probably what would happen in real life? More than likely, especially once, the show we were watching that we were talking about that we're going to do a review on, For Life, right? Once you're convicted, getting out the first time is one thing, but once you've already been
in our system, everyone knows it.
Appeals are a joke. You're done. You're not getting out. So I think that was true to life there, but it wasn't true to the movie, to the movie formula where there's a happy ending at the end. Even if he was a vile person, he didn't deserve this. He was wrong, so he should have been acquitted. My man didn't get acquitted. Oh man, my man didn't get acquitted. And I think even there they said, what happens to people that go to jail that are convicted of what you're convicted at for the next 20 years or whatever they do. Whatever you're convicted of is what they're going to do to you in there. Do you really want to be in jail? Because he was mad when he revealed to the wife that, he was having an affair with her or whatnot in court, I should say, because he didn't want that to come out. And part of it is that's the reason he got convicted the very first time, because he was trying to, deny that anything happened. And I mean, come on, there was like forensic DNA and evidence. And he said, this is the worst offense I've ever seen. There's DNA that says, yes, you guys were together, and yet you're still insisting nothing ever happened. Like, dude, you already lied. That's why you're in here right now. Tell me the truth as your lawyer if you want me to defend you. It was a great movie. It was a great movie. Anything else you want to touch on pertaining to the movie?
Yeah. So one thing that I just forgot about till right now is, so we talked about how appeals, at least in the American system, is a joke. One huge benefit of having a jury of your peers is it takes it does two big things. One is it eliminates the option of a corrupt judge who's just going to make that decision based on whatever decision. We would love to think that all of our officials, especially those who are elected district courts and whatnot, that they're upstanding people. But let's be real. And then two, it also takes the pressure off that judge being ridiculed. We see those two magistrates, those two judges in their chambers at the end when the whole Akshaye's character, he presented everything he could, except for having CCTV footage of Anjali in the stairwell hurting herself. That was his speculation. He had everything else. He had all this proof, past relationship. The brother had beat her, not him. That you're right. That this time's not consensual, and all the other times were. She voluntarily came into my house. All these things. But at the end of the day, the reason why it did not get overturned was because the judges felt pressure from the outside world, felt pressure. There's riots, there's mobs rushing, and the police are doing the best they can. It got super intense, and the judges, there's no way they were going to put that on themselves. I feel like they felt like they were between a rock and a hard place. This guy was found guilty before. We don't have to recreate the wheel here. Let's do the safe choice. Even though this is why I wouldn't be a good lawyer. If I'm Akshaye's character to run and I have just one of those things that he presents to create doubt to where my client didn't get a fair trial and he should be acquitted, I'm feeling pretty good about that. He had 4, 5, 6, or 7 different things, and it still wasn't good enough because at the end of the day, those people outside making all that noise, they frighten me, and this is not worth my life. This is not worth my job. And so this guy is just going to be found guilty. The thing I did not like, this is the thing I hated the most about the entire movie, and I love this movie. The thing I hated the most was the end. Now, I am always someone, and I talked about this on a movie not too long ago. I want to know what happened at the end of the movie. I'm that dumb. Spell it out for me. But they did such a great job spelling it out for us that Anjali was setting up this director to get back at him. Hell hath no fury, right? And a woman scorned. I felt like that was a slam dunk that was there. Why in the world would that character who was that devious, Anjali, why would she then brag about it afterwards? I'm not sure if India has a double jeopardy law, but she wasn't on trial. She could have gotten arrested for lying and false offense and then having to go through her own court system. Why would she say that to her lawyer, with the exception of the director, the writer thought the audience was too dumb to figure out that that's what was really happening? For me, it made no point whatsoever.
I think that you hit the nail on the head. The director did want us to know that she did do it. It wasn't just all speculation. So I think that's why the director put that in there. But I don't take it as she was bragging, because if you saw when he was getting driven away, she was crying. She was tearing up. So I felt like she felt some remorse at that point. Like, look.
No, I feel like she was tearing up because she still liked him, but she was ticked that he made her do what she did. That's how I felt. But keep going. Sorry.
I felt like it was remorse because what she says is, look, he was completely right. And we're talking about the lawyer that Akish is playing. Okay. He didn't rape me, but everything he did do is almost just as bad. So that was her way of saying, yes, this didn't happen, but he still deserves to go away for what he did to me. But I felt like she had remorse, because that's why you saw the tears coming down her eyes, because it wasn't like she was laughing and celebrating about it or anything. That was just my perspective. But ultimately, I think the director did put it in there so that there was no doubt left in our mind that, no, this guy was innocent of this one crime. He was guilty of everything else. Okay, he himself admittedly was a 2-time, at least twice, 2 different women we find out during the course of this trial that he's had an affair with, because of course he's married, and he used his position as a powerful director to put him in vulnerable positions so that they had to do what he wanted them to do. So again, he's guilty of a lot of things, and I think that that's what the director wanted us to know. But
I thought it was pointless. I would have rather it been presented a different way. It seemed lazy. It was up there, driving away, walking out. Oh, by the way, he didn't do it. I lied the entire time. She knows her lawyer is passionate about justice, not law, like her opposing counsel. I just thought it was a bad move. I have no problem with the director showing us a glimpse of her world afterwards, or her getting caught for lying or whatever. But I just thought that point was presented pretty clearly. I don't think she has remorse. I don't think she was an evil person. I don't think she, now my grand plan came through. But I do think that her goal was to make him pay for taking advantage of her. And her tear could have been because she knew that she went super far, but she obviously felt justified about it. I think she's more of a complex character than she was just an evil person. But I didn't like that part. I loved everything else. I especially loved the ultimate ending where we have, like I said earlier, the two lawyers coming together. He comes home and the wife embraces him. She kind of razzes him a little bit. The daughter doesn't hate him. I didn't want to see any of that nonsense. When the counsel comes back, the female lawyer comes to have the dinner party with them, with her husband or whoever that is. I love how the wife is talking trash and like, oh, he got fired for not listening to me, basically. And even he laughs about it. I love that because that stayed true and true. He didn't even care that he's been suspended for 6 months because in his mind, he's going to go back. He's going to revisit this once he's able to. And in his mind, he's going to be okay, but he loves the law. And he even mentioned at the end, he's like, I told you in the beginning, it's about the law. It's not about justice. And when she tells him, I think my client was guilty the whole time, he's not surprised. He doesn't care because he did his job. She did her job. She won. He respects that. And now he's got to move on further in the law. I loved. I wish all people were that understanding and that professional.
And I think that one of the biggest things that that showed us was when he at the hearing, says, I'm going to challenge this to a higher court because this decision is wrong. And the female judge looks at him and says, I wouldn't blame you, or something to the effect of you have the she's acknowledging, this is the wrong decision we're handing down right now. But do you see what's going on out there right now? They're rioting, they're breaking down police barriers. If he's found not guilty, we don't want those ramifications. And I guess that was the big message of this film, in my opinion, is that politics plays a huge role in what happens in these cases. And for every Harvey Weinstein, for every Bill Cosby, for all these guys that are guilty, there are going to be some men that are accused that aren't guilty. But you know what? Right now, you are pretty much guilty until proven innocent. You get accused of it, and it's going to cost a boatload of money, time to, if you're able to even get found innocent. And even after that, forget about it. Your career's done. You know what I mean? So I tell you what, this is a brave movie. I tell you, I would not have written this. I would have not have produced this because I don't want the backlash. Don't want it. No parts of it.
Well, then you would have missed out on a great gem and something that the critics love because this is a great movie. One thing that you had said that I wanted to, that struck a chord with me, was talking about, I just lost it. Darn it. It was a really good point I was going to say, but I can't remember what it was. But you were talking about the appeals, and I wouldn't blame you for doing this or that. Oh, well, I lost it. But I'm ready to grade this movie, and I'm going to go ahead. I mean, it's pretty easy for me. I'm going to give this a solid A. This is a great courtroom drama. I think it was Pinky Tinky that says I think she loves courtroom dramas. I do as well. I still watch Law and Order SVU, even though the episodes are really bad. And this was a great one. This gave me something different. This had fantastic acting by Akshaye. I mean, that was quite a performance. Some of the other performances didn't hold as much. I didn't like the ending or the pre-ending ending. But overall, this is a fantastic movie. It did not disappoint based on all the requests we got from it. Easy A.
Good. All right. So for me, I have to agree with you. I was leaning towards A- because I did not like the ending where we know he's guilty, but he's in jail. But then I started thinking about some of the documentaries I've seen this year. For instance, on Netflix, they had a Time about the Khalif Browder story, where this kid never even went to court. He was just waiting for a trial for something he didn't do, and ultimately ended up spending like 5 years in Rikers for stealing a backpack that he didn't. You know what I mean? Like, there are innocent people that do go to jail. So this is, art imitating real life. And even though I'm not happy with the ending, I just think, oh, he's not guilty. He should get out. Does that always happen? Probably not. So if that's the case, I respect the director. I think he's super gutsy for even, directing this film. So I'm going to give it an A as well. One of the few times that we see eye to eye on a film. I will say though, you got way more guts than I do, bro. I would not. In real life, I wouldn't defend this person. If I were the actor, I'd stay 10 feet away from this thing, 100 feet away from this thing, because just the fear. You're a lot more brave than I am, but this fear of what happens with social media. And even he was saying, like, this guy, what are you talking about? He walks away scot-free. The lawyer said, Akish says, he's already convicted in the the poll of Twitter. He's convicted it was Twitter, and on Facebook he's been convicted on YouTube, all social media. Yeah, the court of social media. For all intents and purposes, this guy's career is over. His life is over. His wife, because he has a wife, her life is over.
Oh, that was so heartbreaking too, having to see her go through that. But I remember my point I was going to make. We can say that, yes, it's so sad and so horrible what happened to this guy, and he got screwed over by the courts twice. But this is what I tell my own kids. Even though you can walk a foot in front of the edge of the cliff and not fall over, why would you take that chance? I would walk 20 feet away from the cliff, because if I happen to fall over and the wind blows or whatever, there's no chance I'm falling over that edge. So if you continue to play with fire, eventually you're going to get burned. And whether you're guilty of it or not, why did you put yourself in that situation in the first place? My house, knock on wood, has never gotten broken into yet, or ever in my life. In any house I've lived in has got broken into. Does that mean I'm going to stop locking my doors now because it just hasn't happened in the past? Of course not. Does that mean I'm not going to protect my family by the means I need to? Of course not. So this guy, he kept playing with fire. He was a married man, married to a good woman that he cared about staying with. I mean, he got burned. He wasn't guilty of it, but he was messing around too much. So that was the point I wanted to make. This film, I would definitely touch it because I don't want cultural biases to keep me from doing what I think is a good thing. You got to be smart. You got to be wise, like social distancing. People make fun of that still to this day. But at the end of the day, I'm not sick. Neither are you. And we're practicing social distancing. And I'm not trying to brag. And for those people that are sick, I'm not trying to say that at all. But there's some validity in being careful. But there's no validity in my opinion, of straying away from this. This is a great film. Let's make it again tomorrow. Let's do Section 376 and let's get that made, because these stories, they do need to be told. As silly as it is, this is a film, but someone's going to relate this to real life, and they're going to say, well, in Section 375, the guy wasn't guilty. Let's take a look. Let's let due diligence, have its way. But that's our review for Section 375. I got the last word.